When we last left Artie, the strongest man in the world, he was just about ready to help me with my paper.
Look at the work, boy. Look at the work.
Suddenly, I had an idea.
Butkins goes down.
A brilliant idea. Hey, Artie.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.
Oh, joy!
Let's rock.
It makes me wanna fart.
Dear Journal, it's me, Doug.
You have it!
Dig it.
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
That was a hoot!
On your mark. Get set.
Oh, here it goes!
Welcome to Splat Attack, where we're taking it back to the slime-filled past. I am your gaktastic co-host, Brett.
And I am your slimerific host, Alex. And Christmas is over, Thanksgiving's over, and now it's time to look at the new year.
Yes, we are on the edge of 2021, heading into the year 2022. Hard to believe, folks, because so much has happened in the past couple of years that time is just flying past us faster than we can catch up. But to celebrate this New Year's occasion, we actually found an episode to we found an episode
the incoming.
Yes, we found an episode to commemorate the incoming year. And with us, we actually have a fellow Pete and Pete expert who is going to help us review that episode. Guest, would you like to reveal yourselves to the audience, please?
Hello, I am the said Pete expert, whatever. We'll see about that. But I'm Allie, and you guys might remember me from the last episode for the Christmas special.
That's right. Allie was representing Noble Nostalgia and Dungeons and Decades, which are both of her podcasts that you can listen to on Spotify, Podbean, Anchor, wherever else you can listen to podcasts. And she shared with us the Pee-wee's Playhouse. No, Mr. Bean's play.
Nope.
The Mr. Bean one. I was mixing the two up because they seem very similar to me, goofy guys in suits.
Well, good choices though.
Yes.
Also,
I enjoyed those very much.
And also Allie is in charge of the Krebstar Industries over on Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a little fan art page dedicated to all the weird, kooky, what do you want to call it? Products of the Pete and Pete world.
Yeah. I really love all the different designs you come up with for your merchandise, like the prosthetics baseball jersey from Field of Pete and the Krebstar Viscerator guitar from Hard Days Pete. The poster of that was really cool. And
Thank you.
I think you did a few like magazine advertisements, like for the King of the Road station wagon, Crebo the Loom underpants from Inspector 34 episode, and just a slew of others that elude my mind at the moment.
Yeah. I'm trying to do them in chronological order. I'm trying to do it like every single little one that's been mentioned. Sometimes they get collabed into one, but the idea is like by the end of this, I'll have like an actual like magazine like ad that folks could like look over. I don't know, so it could be, but we got a lot to go still. We're just in season 2, so
Be like a comic book. Be like one of those comic book ads where it's just a whole bunch of all the little pieces with the big yellow background.
Yeah, we'll have some fake prices or something, and
yeah.
send your check to Wellsville.
Right. Well, whenever that actually materializes, definitely love to get our hands on that, because that sounds amazing. And
Awesome.
I believe I saw the most recent one is like the Krebstar Bass Buster, or did you make one after that, or a couple?
Yeah, the Bass Buster is the most recent one, which is iconic little fishing rod from on Golden Pete, which is a great little episode and fun quirky stuff. So
Definitely. Yeah. Highlights Don's character, Don Wrigley, very well.
Yes, it's a very solid Don episode.
Definitely. And this might be a little bit of a Don episode too, but it mostly focuses on Little Pete.
Oh, Little Pete's the star for sure.
So we're gonna start with our episode review of New Year's Pete. The original air date was January 2nd, 1993, and it was part of the first 5 specials that later got rolled into season 1 for the DVD release in 2005. And for those who don't remember those, the other 4 were Valentine's Day Massacre, What We Did on Our Summer Vacation, Space, Geeks, and Johnny Unitas, and of course, Apocalypse Pete. So moving into the synopsis of the episode, we start with like a title card that says New Year's Eve at 11:31 p.m. Little Pete is struggling to pedal uphill on his Stingray bike. A middle-aged bystander wishes him a happy new year, but little Pete is unfazed by his well wishes. He then begins a dialogue about how New Year's resolutions are a load of baloney, since every adult gets excited, imagining their resolutions at the party, but actually have a hard time following through once the party is over. Due to his disgust, little Pete sets out to do one thing: change the world. And in order to do that, he sets a goal to save up for a jetpack costing $456.98 in 90s money, that is.
Chump change. Chump change.
He imagines himself flying across the horizon valiantly while cutting back to him turning around at the crest of the hill, then releasing the bike to let it coast downhill on its own. And then cue the intro theme song. What do you guys think about this? Yeah, the quintessential Polaris theme song, Hey Sandy. Never gets old. What do you guys think about this show opener for this episode?
I like it a lot. You get a great Little Pete insult like right off the bat, which is fantastic. You're already setting up this sort of me against the world kind of problem that Pete usually has. It's usually him against his parents and their dumb ideals and this and that. So I think it sets up the episode pretty darn well.
It's been said before, but I really want to acknowledge again that the cinematography on this show is top notch. If you look at any of the situational comedies that's on any network, they're all pretty standard. But Pete and Pete was very, very innovative with their cinematography. They had the cameras on the bike going towards the crossing guard. They had these crazy fisheye and extreme close-ups. But the beginning of this episode with Pete on the very top of the hill with the moon directly behind him and just there still and in pure frustration, it's a beautiful image, and that image alone is ingrained in my mind.
That's why I made it the image for this episode thumbnail. It was just too beautiful to ignore. Like, I just really love the ominous feeling of it, him standing there backlit in like the darkness right in the middle of the street of Wellsville.
Agreed.
Yeah, I can't really add much more to what you guys said. I really dig it. I like the avant-garde kind of style editing, along with like intercuts between like adults' perception of New Year's Eve and then like little Pete's perception, which somehow doesn't quite match up with theirs, because everyone likes to hype themselves up in each other for like making resolutions and making a difference, but we all know how that goes, right?
And I also want to acknowledge the fact that this is a Nickelodeon show that straight up used the phrase PO'd.
Yeah.
Was I PO'd? You decide.
I was just gonna say, if I was Pete's age, even using just PO'd would have got me in trouble, right?
Yep.
Not
saying it. So after the quintessential theme song plays, we see little Pete go into detail about how awesome it would be to ride a jetpack across the world, which segues into his plan to earn the money. He and Big Pete go door to door dressed up in yellow biohazard suits, scanning neighbors' lawns with metal detectors and planting dummy landmines to sell their product. Ellen happens to see the Petes and walks up to them, but is unaware of the buried landmine just ahead. Immediately, Big Pete dives to save her from the impending explosion, leading him to bailing out on little Pete and one of his plans being foiled. Ooh, what to unpack here? Let's start with the little jetpack fantasy, because we do see that quite a few times throughout the episode. How do you feel about this? Because personally, I just love the image of seeing Pete on a jetpack. It doesn't even matter what the background is. Like, even if he's flying through New York City or my backyard, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's done pretty like simple, like even for how good their cinematography is. It's a pretty simple thing, but it like you get the point. I do want to point out that this is the Krebstar product, which is kind of like
Yeah.
kind of sad, you know, like Krebstar wasn't conceived yet in the Pete and Pete universe. So this is a Riley jetpack instead.
Yep. Yeah, this is the predecessor to that. Maybe Riley
but
went under after season 1 and Krebstar just bought them out or like got all
Could
their
be.
inventory and started building from there.
This is totally like a 90s trope too. Like I'm flipping through the magazine and there's the thing I want and I got to cut the clip out and send the money and like
Right.
it's pretty
Yeah,
great.
it could be anything really, like X-ray specs. I know was another popular one, or in the case of that season 1 Simpsons episode, Homer's Night Out, Bart sends away for a spy camera. So in the midst of little Pete daydreaming about his goal, he gets abruptly stopped by the crossing guard and has a brief tiff with him. As the bicycle continues its downhill descent in New Year's Eve time, little Pete recalls how he enlisted his personal superhero, Artie, the strongest man in the world, to help him with his paper route. After rocket launching a paper into the chest of an unsuspecting neighbor in his pajamas, little Pete suddenly gets the idea to have Artie join his father's bowling team to help him win a local tournament. So just to cover some ground before we jump into this little segment, what do you think about the Pete's going door to door to earn the money for the jetpack?
So cool that we get to meet Debbie Harry, which is awesome.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, her iconic role. But go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
I absolutely love the fact that I watched this episode with my 7-year-old, and he was very confused. Daddy, are those bombs? Those are landmines. And then the dog,
kind of like bombs.
Debbie Harry's dog took a little sniff, and the said bomb went kaboom. and of course, it's a kid's show. The dog was perfectly fine. It just went airborne for a little while, came right back down safely. And my son just looked at it and went, "How is that dog not dead?"
Believe me,
And
I thought the
this
same thing
kid's been
too. It's movie magic.
My son has been watching too many James Bond movies with his dad. So you see bombs, death. No,
Yeah.
This was just treated as a giant spring essentially, and he was so confused.
Well, the interesting thing about the Pete and Pete,
it was such a good gag.
It was, and the interesting thing about the Pete and Pete universe is that it has a cartoonish flair to it. So not everything is like one-to-one comparison with real life, thank goodness. And I think that gives it some of its charm, really. That some things may happen that are very hard to imagine if they actually were to happen. Like, for example, in Apocalypse, Pete, Artie essentially launching this massive spoon full of like butter at Ellen's father during the prank war.
During this episode with the newspaper thing, I didn't see it as the first time I watched it last year, because yes, last year was the first time I watched this episode. I didn't see the newspaper smashing into his chest as just it smashed onto him and then split. I saw it as it embedded into the guy's chest.
Yep, right through it, impaled him.
Yeah, and his soul is being evacuated from within.
A great line that Artie yells before he launches his paper, which is, "Hold on to your coffee, snorty buttkins."
Yes.
Hold on to your coffee, snorty buttkins.
Great character name in itself.
Everything Artie says is gold.
Yeah, that mutant's got quite an arm too, man. No one else can launch a newspaper quite like him and have it smoking.
And I think somebody had the theory that Artie was a figment of Little Pete's imagination, and this kind of goes against that because you have physical evidence of, of something that's happened to him, and physical evidence that he does have some superpower.
Right. Other people are interacting with him aside from Little Pete, so it's not like a Calvin and Hobbes situation where as soon as an adult comes into the space, they're just like returning back to like a stuffed animal or a doll.
Now, later, obviously, we know that even more so in the series, but up to this point, that hasn't really been seen very often.
Yeah. The specials are just laying the groundwork for all the mechanizations of like the longstanding characters like Artie, Little Pete, Crossing Guard, Frank, all of them. So it's interesting to see. It's got like a very, I don't want to say raw because that seems too rough around the edges, but New Year's Pete definitely has like a work in progress kind of feel to it. Like it's not quite up to King of the Road or like a season 2 episode just yet.
Sorry, I feel like all the building blocks and structures for what the series like will become are in episodes like this. Like they're not like fully imagined, but like you see what we're going for and like what the path was going to be for these characters and these stories.
Oh, for sure. Like even with the Crossing Guard, we see him in a few season 2 episodes. So, maybe they're testing him out to see how the character interacts with like Little Pete or any other main character before bringing him back for a storyline or two. So they're at the local bowling alley right now. Artie's playing bowling for Don Wrigley's team against a rival team. And Little Pete enlists Artie to somehow, I guess, earn some money through winning the championship. It wasn't entirely clear to me, but that's what I can assume since Little Pete's like determined to earn money however possible in this episode.
Yeah, he knew that with Artie on his dad's team that they would absolutely win. So he essentially gambles all of his money in favor of his dad's team winning. Well,
I wouldn't say gamble. I mean, he has a little bit of a insurance policy because that bowling ball that Artie has let's just say it has a special mechanism inside of it that makes it seem telekinetic, that Artie can direct the ball wherever he wants it to go in order to get strikes.
Yeah, I think ultimately Pete's just hedging his bets here, and so he's going for it all. And then what you need in an episode like this, you need conflict. So he's almost there, but then
like 20, 30 years later, Mark Rober actually makes a bowling ball that will shift back and forth just by looking at it.
No. Interesting. I know nothing of this bowling ball, but you'll have to show me.
Yes, dead serious. But yeah, Mark Rober, I think it was motion activated, or no, it was sensor activated. He's got little weights on the inside of the bowling ball, and he's got the sensors on his shoulder. So like when people would bowl, they'd lean to the left and right. Oh, go this way. So he had it under his shirt, so when he would lean to one side, he could aim the bowling ball to go the direction he wanted.
Nuts. That's amazing.
It kind of, I mean, this seems like a crazy comparison, but it may be one step closer to making Wii bowling a reality. Like with the way you move the motion sensor. I love that game so much back in the day. So yes, they're essentially like one strike away from winning the championship, and Artie is thwarted by a bowling manager / talent scout who thinks that he's got the skills to go pro. And in that very moment, Artie feels, I guess, pressure to commit to that contract and essentially throws the game for Don's team, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Artie's got to take his skills to the next level.
This really should have been a crossover with the movie Kingpin.
Yeah, I was definitely feeling Kingpin vibes when I was watching this scene.
It's interesting because the actor who plays the guy who signs Artie, the bowling scout, is also the same guy that just got hit with the newspaper. So,
I did notice that.
Clearly, that's over. That vendetta is clearly over by the aspect Artie going to make him lots of money.
maybe his revenge.
I thought it was the same character.
Could be, yeah.
Maybe
Snorty Butkins
foreshadowing.
Right
there. Yeah, I think that character, the actor's name is Vincent Pastore. He's like a pseudo celebrity. I think he was. Now I'm gonna look foolish because I don't know where he's from. Someone look it up.
The Sopranos.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was.
I was gonna say like something Italian mafia related that's on TV.
Ironically enough, though, the old lady who they booby trap her yard, not Debbie Harry, but like the older woman.
Yeah.
She's also credited in The Sopranos. So it's kind of funny connection. Yeah.
Yeah. I found out upon like a third rewatch of this episode that her name is Mrs. Puhle, Pule.
Okay.
It sounds like Eunice Puller from Crisis in the Love Zone. The male lady. Maybe they're related. I don't know.
Building blocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Little Pete feels dragged down by not only his foiled efforts to earn money, but also the heavy bag of newspapers he had to deliver without his right-hand mutant. Just then, a crossing guard from before halts Little Pete from passing through a four-way intersection for about a solid day. Both are deadlocked until Little Pete pulls a fast one on Frank. Defeated, the crossing guard steps off the road, and little Pete, feeling pity for him, sits down to have a talk about why Frank takes his job so seriously. So essentially what happens here is that, Frank stops Pete, says he can't cross, and they have like a little back and forth thing that lasts for about like a day and night. And then, in like a moment of weakness, little Pete like pulls a fast one on him, and he gets around and he's like, hey, sucker. And then for some reason, he just, because of that one instance, like that one moment, Frank feels like his career is over. So he just kind of sits down on the curb to reflect on his life.
So
yeah,
this goes back to the point I was trying to make with the PO'd statement. Like, you're surprised to hear PO'd. I'm surprised to see somebody smoking on a children's show,
right?
Which is, I get, like, it makes sense, like, for the story, because his New Year's resolution is he wants to quit smoking, which he clearly can't do.
Yeah.
Like, none of the adults can do the things that they said they're going to do for their New Year's resolution, which, we can go, which we'll talk about on the moral, maybe perhaps of this, but it's jarring to see that on any children's TV show.
Yeah,
older or newer otherwise. Yeah,
it could have been just a sign of the times. I mean, Are You Afraid of the Dark had Kelly smoking, Jules, who was played by Jewel State in The Tale of Watcher's Woods.
You gonna smoke? Yes. The fire warning is up. You were just too perfect, aren't you?
Think back to the way things were back in the 90s. Everybody was smoking.
Yeah.
There were smoking sections in restaurants. Half
I
the time they were right by the door when you walked in. You couldn't get past. You had to go past them to get to the non-smoking section.
I used to have to hold my breath to go to certain restaurants.
It was like having a peeing section in the pool. It's just not going to work. But everyone, kids saw smoking everywhere, but they never. I think the big thing was they couldn't show a child with a cigarette at any point, which is why they were able to get it past the standards and practices at the time, and also that they were putting it in a negative light because he was trying to put some initiative into not smoking. And now, I mean, obviously you don't see it anywhere now. It's just new.
Everyone's a lot more health conscious now.
Yes,
I for sure like it though. Like, that's just real life in general. Like, regardless of anything, you're gonna have people. If you're a child, there's adults in your life that are gonna smoke, whether it's a family member or somebody in your neighborhood. It's just a part of life, and whether you can avoid that or not is up to you. But yeah, it's just, that's one of the things I liked about Pete and P2 is, like, even though yes, it has its wackiness and it's cartoonish kind of things, it's like very real life.
Yes,
it's a suitable balance. Feeling touched by Frank's story, little Pete gets the idea to become a crossing guard himself, while Frank takes a much needed rest. However, little Pete capitalizes on his new vocation by charging pedestrians a hefty sum to cross the street. And one shifty person in particular tries to find a roundabout way to get around the neighborhood, but to no avail. Do you guys remember this scene at all? Where like the guy in the black, like long overcoat is like, hey, let me see if I can get around him. He like goes through neighbors' backyards, and still he ends up like running into little Pete, and he's just like, no, the power of the sign is making me melt.
He gave me a vibe of like, like a silent villain, like a silent film villain who like the way he walks.
Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah.
And I
that was great.
And I got droopy vibes off it with the wolf trying to run away constantly, and then everywhere he turned, boom, there was little Pete.
Totally. Yeah, that adds to the cartoonishness. So little Pete returns to the intersection, thumbing a thick wad of bills. Frank ends up firing him on the spot for disobeying the crossing guard oath. After knocking over the mailman to get his package on December 19th, little Pete fantasizes about his mission to change the world. But when he opens it, a wave of disappointment washes over him as the object of desire fails to live up to his expectations. So, after all this buildup of like 3/4 of the episode, we finally get to see the retro Riley jetpack here in the flesh. And as soon as he opens that big old cardboard box, it's not what he thinks it is.
Oh, there's something in that sequence that I just love. That is one of the reasons, like, when you can dwindle, when you can distill Pete and Pete down to like one thing, like there's certain things that come to mind. And definitely one of them is little Pete in his room listening to a German language record that teaches him how to bite my scab blowhole.
I tried to kill time by practicing German for my summit meeting in Dusseldorf.
Beiß mein Schorf, Blasenloch.
Beiß mein Schloff, Blasenloch.
Bite my scab, blowhole.
It's so wonderful. It's such good writing and consistency throughout. And yeah, it's great.
The little details like that really flesh out the Pete and Pete universe of Wellsville.
Yeah.
I was going to mention real quick that I really like the moment where the camera's like looking outside little Pete's window, because he like goes from his desk looking out the window to like outside without the camera moving, and then we see him like literally charge into the mailman, knocking him to the ground just to get his box. And that felt like a real Wile E. Coyote moment to me, just total slapstick comedy, and due to the framing we don't skip a beat. It's beautiful comedic timing.
Really, no, you got a nail on the head. It's perfect. It's such a great shot.
Definitely. But what were you going to say about the jetpack?
Yeah, like I do like once he has like maybe he had mentioned this, but like I think this is before he gets the package and he's imagining again like what his jetpack ride's going to be like, and he mentions that he wants to fight evil like Abraham Lincoln.
As I shredded the box, I thought about how I'd soon be spitting in the face of evil everywhere, just like Abe Lincoln. Can you imagine what Honest Abe could have done with a Riley retro-fired jetpack?
Yes. I think that's one of his heroes. He's mentioned it in a few episodes.
Yeah.
I wonder what Abraham Lincoln would do with a jetpack if he had
one. But yeah, unfortunately, he gets that leaf blower just to screw up by the company, which it's funny to me. Like, makes me wonder if the company actually has jetpacks.
I thought the same thing.
Ever since I saw Gilligan use one on Gilligan's Island, I've always fantasized as a kid, like, ooh, I can't wait to get my hands on a jetpack, and I just want to like fly it all around, and like, who needs the bus? I can take it to school, and like I can just go to the next day if I want to without getting a plane ticket. It seems like one of those quintessential children's fantasies that everyone can somehow relate to. It's just something of like an object of desire you want so badly you'll do anything for it, and yet somehow, due to the limitations of technology at the time, it just isn't really a thing for public consumption. And as far as I know, it still isn't. Although I have seen like a water jetpack kind of version on a hose, Super Mario Sunshine style, in like around 2012 on some YouTube videos. So we're getting there.
Back in 1964 on the movie Thunderball, James Bond had a jetpack, and it was a real working jetpack. They found somebody who had built one, and what is in the movie is a person actually using it. There was no special effects for it. I think all he was able to do was just go up and down, and that's all he was able to really accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, I think even back then, that's still a marvelous feat, just to see like a machine strapped to your back propel you off the ground. Amazing. Getting back to the synopsis, back in New Year's Eve time, little Pete realizes he can still accomplish his resolution. With mere seconds left, he steals a noisemaker and books it down the hill towards Frank, where his bicycle landed right in front of him. Little Pete apologizes for dishonoring his crossing guard role and wishes Frank a happy new year while he sits on the bicycle honking the noisemaker at little Pete. Both exchange their resolutions, and while that sweet, sweet Polaris music plays us out, little Pete promises to think of something that will make a difference. So what do you guys think about the ending of this episode after all we've seen in terms of like it bookending to New Year's Day happening during night, and Pete like catching up with his bicycle?
I have very strong feelings for the ending of this, but I'll talk about that more when I get to my review.
Interesting. Okay. Allie?
Or I should say my rating.
Yeah.
I think I have some strong feelings too about how this whole episode was done. I do like that there's this sort of sense of, so the whole thing that's driving little Pete is that he wants to change the world. So he's put this massive goal on his shoulders. And I do like how they came to the ending of not how they came to it, but I like the ending of Pete choosing to do a small act of kindness instead of focusing on the big thing. But I think for like maybe Alex shares a similar sentiment, but I don't like how they got to that moral. But I do like Pete and Frank's interactions. I think they're great together. And they have like really great chemistry for the duo that they are. I like the shot still of like the bike, the single shot of the bike rolling by itself is really neat. There's also a sequence that I just love during that part where the bike's rolling and Pete's talking about everyone's resolutions again. And they do this close up of Don with this little smoky and he like sucks it in, which is so funny to me, like how they get that shot. But yeah, I think it's a good moral, but maybe they could have done a little better job of getting us to that point.
Yeah. I pretty much feel the same. Something about them reaching the resolution feels a little disjointed, like somehow disproportionate to all the buildup that we've gotten to the point in Little Pete's whole monologue about how he's like disappointed in adults failing to live up to the expectations that they set for themselves. It kind of turns back on him with the whole jetpack thing. But I do like the interactions with him and Crossing Guard Frank. Those are like the most real moments of the episode where it kind of has it provides not only conflict, but also like the heart to heart sentimentality that you're looking for in Pete and Pete. And, maybe the episode didn't exactly stick its landing, but it landed nonetheless. I do like the inclusion of the Polaris music. I think She Is Staggering at the end.
It's just a really cool version with the whistling.
Yeah.
The recorded version or like the album version, but it was cool. It was a nice
it makes it feel more whimsical and innocent.
So going along with the music, and I don't have the answer, I'm genuinely asking, do either of you know the song that was playing when they were doing the door-to-door sales for the mine sweeping?
I looked for that. It was like some like weird late 80s early 90s hard rock going on, but
yeah, that's right up my alley. I was like, I want more of that.
Yeah, I liked it. It's very similar to this one track in Apocalypse Pete that kind of feels like Big Me by the Foo Fighters, where it goes like dun, 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 dun. It's like playing in the background while Big P and Ellen are like having their exchange of like letters because they can't see each other. And I'm like, man, where does this music come from? Is like Polaris playing this, or is it like from a one-off indie bands? Like, I need to know. I need to listen to this in full. Where is it?
It sounds like it's from an indie band. I couldn't tell you which one it is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how that one gets passed, to the season 1 DVDs, but season 3 is just out of the loop. But
it's strange. But moving on, we're going to mention a few notable moments that I happened to catch along the way of our episode review. These are the things that stuck out to me if people are just watching it for the first time, or like if you don't remember it and you haven't seen it in a while. Seeing Little Pete fly across the world with his jetpack was definitely an iconic image for me when I first saw it. I love that visual. Artie bowl nearly a perfect game with his telekinetic bowling ball. I really like the stop motion camera work that it had with like the spinning and like seeing the hamster in it. That really stuck out to me. I also thought it was interesting that Little Pete didn't really wear his flannel hat for most of the flashback sequence. Like he only wore it in the night shots, which was an interesting directorial choice. Other than that, just the celebrity cameos.
But to go on the point of, this is Little Pete's first narration, Danny Tamborelli. I think the episodes are better served with Michael C. Morona as the narrator. I think they're just more impactful. I think he's just a far superior at delivering those lines and those stories. So other notable moments. I loved Artie's line of "Hold on to your coffee, Snorty Butkins." I love the shot of Dawn sucking down a little Smoky. Hilarious to me. I like the German language record that Little Pete's going off of. And yeah, I think those are more the notable moments on my end.
The only thing that wasn't really mentioned, at least that I could hear, that really stuck out with me was the dummy mines that were not dummies at all. They were full live mines that they had planted in people's yards and just straight up hustled. But I do love the fact that Big Pete foiled the whole thing for the affection he had for his friend.
That's Big Pete's thing. He's like full of raging hormones. So every season there's like some girl, whether it's like his on again, off again, will they, won't they relationship with Ellen, or if it's like a girl of the episode where she just comes in, she's like, hey Pete, do you want to come with me? And he's like, okay, see you later, little Pete. I just forget you existed for now. And it's like, oh, I kind of hate when that happens because he does it so often. But at the same time, it does help move the plot along. So it is what it is. I particularly like the landmine that blows the puppy up into the air because it also blows the head off of the lawn statue clear away. And it reminds me of the same lawn statue that they run over in Home Alone 1. So I feel like it just ties in comedically perfectly there with suburban comedy.
Oh, yeah. Considering Big Pete's in that movie.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Where was Pete and Pete filmed?
New Jersey.
That's right. That's right. I knew that.
Where was Home Alone filmed? I feel like it was like Ohio or somewhere Midwest.
It was in
Chicago.
I think it was actually in Chicago. I think the home was in Chicago, but they didn't. I don't think they filmed. No, they did film there. They filmed in a school in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I watched that little Netflix thing. They filmed it like in a gym, essentially.
Yes.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess we can't make the tentative connection there unless little Pete decides to move away to spend time with his second family for Christmas. So yeah, that's what we have for the episode. We're going to move on to our new segment, Say What?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
what?
And essentially what we're going to do for that is I'm going to list a couple of quotes that I picked up from the episode, and you two will have to try and guess who said it. All right. So for our first Say What, let's see if you two can guess who said this quote. Bowling. Free air.
Well, I know that one.
Yeah.
Who wants to say it?
Artie, strongest
That
man
is
in the
correct.
world.
Bowling.
I think the facial gestures helped a little bit too. And going off of that, look at the work, boy. Look at the work. That was also Artie, but that was a little too obvious.
Arm swing.
Who said this one? Blow it out your nose hole.
What'd you say? Blow it out your nose hole.
Blow it out your nose hole, Frank.
What was that?
Blow it out your nose hole.
Why, that's Little Pete.
Yes, absolutely, Little Pete.
That is correct. I mean, those iconic insults, it's hard to mistake them. So you are correct. 2 for 2.
There's a lot of good ones in this.
Yeah. And speaking of, I have another one for you. Scrape me sideways, pipsqueak.
Oh, yeah. I know that one.
It's Frank the crossing guard.
Yep.
Yep.
had to get one in on Little Pete.
Yeah.
Scrape me sideways, pipsqueak.
Yeah. And even said, not bad. Yeah. Threw right back at him.
I love the fact that Little Pete, one of the ways to get his affection is just pure insults.
I'm at his level, right?
Yeah.
How about this one? I don't know. I'll have to ask my husband. And then someone says to this person, is he home? And then they reply, no, I'm not married. But as soon as I do meet that special someone, I'll be sure to ask him.
I should know the character's name, but I don't.
I don't think they ever say her name.
She's got to have a credit, but so that's Debbie Harry's character. And then Big Pete's the one who asks her if she's married.
I don't know. I'll have to ask my husband.
Is he home?
No, I'm not married. But as soon as I do meet that certain special someone, I'll be sure to ask him.
That's it. 2 for 2.
Mistaken.
I looked on IMDb and they just credit her as neighbor. So Debbie Harry, Mrs. Harry.
Yeah.
anything works for this as long as you know who it is. I'm going to go with this one. It's a little bit lengthier one, but we'll see if you can guess it. That's when I knew the truth. New Year's resolutions were a joke. For one night, you get all wiggly, changing everything, but in the end, you're just a phoebe. I tried, and what happened? I lost everything. My brother, my superhero, and my dream. All I had left was this terrible feeling that my life was like my runaway bike, a bumpy, out of control ride to nowhere.
Dawn.
No, it's great. Beautiful, sad, and strange. Little Pete. It's awesome.
All in one quote.
Definite little
Yep.
Pete.
That's when I knew truth. New Year's resolutions were a joke. For one night you get all wiggly thinking about changing everything, but in the end you're just a phoebe. I tried, and what happened? I lost everything. My brother, my superhero, and my dream. All I had left was this terrible feeling that life was a lot like my runaway bike. A bumpy, out of control ride to nowhere.
Yep, that's it. And these were a little on the easy side, so you both win.
Well, there were so many good quotes in this.
Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of characters in this one, so it's hard to choose from the field.
Yeah, I mean, little Pete just drives the whole episode home, and there's just like a character cameo here and there, but it's just mostly him. And I would say crossing guard Frank in second place for most screen time. Well, let's get to the rating of the episode. What do you guys give your rating?
So for my rating, this is tough. I don't want to be hard on a Pete and Pete episode because I do. It's my favorite series of all time, honestly, and of Nickelodeon. I think I'm rating this on a scale of what Pete and Pete can do, right? And for me, it's a Splat bridge. As I mentioned before throughout the episode, this has a lot of the building blocks for what Pete and Pete can become, but it just doesn't hit the marks that you need it to. And I think ultimately where it failed is the storyline of they do a great job of creating the conflict. So Pete wants to change the world, and they found a great resolution by Pete decided that that's too much to bear. I'm going to do one small act of kindness, and that's enough. I think the episode would have served better if instead of Pete scheming to make money to buy a jetpack, which is a great premise for a kid's show, but I think for the story, I think it would have been better if there was different attempts at Pete trying to change the world and failing those. That I think would have maybe drove it home the best. Regardless, I love the episode. There's a ton of stuff in there, but on the Pete and Pete scale, it's nowhere near the top, and it's nowhere near the worst. So it's a Splat bridge for me.
Okay, I tend to have a different mindset from many people, and I think a big part of that is from teaching kids. And I did not watch Pete and Pete when I was a kid. And the only reason I didn't watch it is because it came on at an odd time when my family was always doing things. So I only have a few episodes that I remember seeing as a kid, and then just a few snippets here and there. I didn't really get to watch the whole series until my youngest was born, and I was up for all those midnight feedings, and I needed something to keep me awake. And I got back into Nickelodeon and started watching the show. And of every episode, there are two that are my absolute favorites. Tool and Die is one of them, and this one is one of them. I adore this episode. I everything about it, and the reason for it is because I can totally relate with little Pete as a child. Now, yes, I'm an adult, but as a kid, I completely got where he was coming from, and I could absolutely see myself wanting to do good because I loved Star Wars. I loved Indiana Jones. I loved all these awesome heroes, and I always wanted to do something like that, be this cool, awesome hero, and having a jetpack, all the cool things I could do with this jetpack. But at the same time, and I said this in a previous episode, I had a terrible, terrible temper as a kid. So I can see little Pete's thinking of, I want to make a difference, but I don't want anybody to get close either. And I keep everybody at bay with an insult. And
that's a great point.
And then once he's doesn't get what he wants, then it's just throwing a temper tantrum. I'm done. I'm fed up. This is total BS. And because that's the thinking of a child. Another thing I really appreciate is Nickelodeon at the time was very, very much kids against adults, especially with Little Pete. Now, obviously there are moments within the series where he breaks down and shows some support to his mom, some support to his dad, but for the most part, he's very aggro against being an adult. And this episode really started to break that down a lot with Crossing Guard Frank. And once it got near the end and he was really starting to think about, I don't have this, I can't change the world today, but I can change the world for someone. And went to somebody who had no one, had this was his life. And even just like Ali had said, a simple act of kindness. And that is something that I think is really missing in kids programs, because and not to insult, not to badmouth anything about it, but a lot of kids programs, especially now, it's filled to the brim of equality, which is great. It's not a bad thing, but that seems to be their main focus. And back then, it was a variety of different lessons. And I really think that it's something that kids need to continue to be made aware of. Is one of the ways to change the world is by small acts of kindness. And I see that every day with the kids that I teach. And that's something that I've put into them, which is one of the reasons why it hits me on that level, and why it's one of my absolute favorite episodes of Pete and Pete. So for me, it's Splat standing.
That's a really amazing point. And it's not one that I don't think about a lot, is that, you know, Pete is really guarded and he's really particular about, or Little Pete, I should say, is very particular about people he lets in his life. And that's a really great point. That was excellent.
Yeah, well said, Alex. Quite a range of reviews here, but for me, I'm probably going to go in the middle. I mean, I've ever since I wrote the notes for this episode, I've been going back and forth between these two ratings. Even just before we started recording, I changed it again because I just can't decide which one it is. It's like smack dab in between the middle for me, but I might give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna give it a Splatisfactory, which is a B, but a high Splatisfactory, because I kept going back and forth between this one and Splatsulent, which is an A. And here's why. I mean, I feel like among the specials, it's a pretty solid episode. Not exactly an iconic one, but definitely an enjoyable one. It's one that I remember seeing when I first grew up, so I have the added bit of nostalgia and the freshness to it. There were some like drab parts of it where the pacing felt a little slow to me. I didn't really care too much for the door-to-door thing with the Pete's, except for like the landmine parts, because maybe I was just a kid with a short attention span and like seeing explosions. The bowling part was interesting, but I don't know, it bugged me that Artie was kind of just shooed away and just like used as a device to like prolong Little Pete's like agenda for like, okay, I gotta make some money so that I can buy this jetpack, and I'm just gonna like try all these different avenues and use my friend to make it happen. So, you know, there's some parts of it that were like, I can do without, but overall, I really enjoy what it's trying to accomplish with its themes and how it addresses like the adult perspective of New Year's resolutions versus like more of a kid perspective, even if it's not like necessarily popular. And that's like, you know, setting up these high and lofty goals and making a big fuss about them at parties and being like, yeah, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And, you know, everyone's just giving themselves a pat on the back. But when it comes time to like doing it a couple of weeks later, it's just like, you don't even remember you've done the New Year's resolution or what you even came up with. But Pete gave a really like earnest effort that he wanted to change the world. He just didn't know how to go about doing that. And that's that's something I kind of struggle with myself, is like I have goals of my own when it comes to just getting ahead in life, making myself a better person, doing good for others. And it doesn't always follow through because I just don't know the best way to do it, but my heart's in the right place. So I can understand his frustration when a series of attempts just don't go quite the way he imagined. There's plenty of great quotes throughout this episode. I definitely repeated a few of them after watching it. I thought the ending, even if it didn't exactly land as well as I thought it would, based on what you said, Allie, I still felt there's like a little warm sentimentality to it, especially because it developed Little Pete's relationship with crossing guard Frank, and how like they seemed like adversaries at first, but then they got on the same page, and just had that little moment together, which was sweet. I did like the camera work overall with like the whole bicycle thing. I thought that was really well done, and that's something that ended up becoming a staple of Pete and Pete, where like they have this like first person point of view of like an object that's like flying through the air and like about to hit something, and it's that weird, wacky, and wonderful that you'd expect from the show that really helps it stand out. So it's got a little bit of good, it's got a little bit of bad. I wish Little Pete wore his flannel trademark hat more, but it is what it is. So I'm going to give it like a high Splatisfactory.
I'm sorry to be the downer of the group. I know, but
I totally get it, because James Bond movies, which are my thing, I'm hard on all of those. So it's trying to be as objective as possible. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
You know what this episode reminded me a lot of? This had a lot of parallels to Inspector 34. And so I thought Inspector 34 maybe borrowed from this episode a lot, because Pete does the training course to become a crossing guard, and then he does the same thing with Inspector 34, and then the whole moral of Inspector 34 is they want to fix the hole in the ozone and global warming and all these hard challenges, and everyone's trying to be perfectionist, and then you get that moral of like, you don't have to be that person or take on that much. So
a rewrite.
I kind of felt like that when I watched one.
Definitely doing something small matters just as much as something big, and it doesn't take a lot to do it, just the will to do it. So it is nice to see that overall.
I also had some trivia too, if you're interested in hearing some of the some random trivia observations.
Okay.
You guys want to try it?
Yes.
Okay,
we're gonna do think fast to make the grade from Allie's perspective. Play the jingle. Time to think fast to make the grade.
What were Don and Joyce's New Year's resolutions?
Don's resolution was, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, and then he shakes his belly.
And she was wanting to strengthen her hand grip.
Yeah, good job.
She tries to open the jar of pickles.
Yeah. Okay, what did the boys charge for a landmine inspection?
$49.
40? Was it 45?
I had $49.99.
Ooh, so close. Is this some Price is Right? Did I get it?
This one might be the harder one. Why are their suits bomb proof?
I don't know that one.
This one's really tough. This is a random one I thought of. They're a Tuxton Mylar blend.
Oh, interesting. So it's got some light bulb filaments in there, huh?
Yeah. As Big Pete's explaining to Ellen why he would be safe from the explosions. Gotcha. This one's a little easier. Where does Artie live?
In a porter potty?
Yeah. There's that line where Don's like, "Where's this guy live?" He's like, "Porter John."
And then they see it later, after he's made it big in bowling,
right?
And had his advertising with all that stuff that's there. It's tingly.
And they actually continuation. They bring this back in on My Little
Farewell,
Viking.
My Little Viking. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I love the continuity.
I got two more. What's the name of the cat that was hit on Frank's watch?
Tinkles.
No.
Sergeant Sprinkles.
Both great names. Mr. Boots.
Yes.
Yes. All right, and this one's might be easier, but this is one of only 2 narrations from Pete. Can you name the other?
Crisis in the Love Zone.
Yeah, yeah. Which parallels a little bit with this one too, because Big Pete abandons Little Pete again with his love interests, and yeah.
Big Pete, when are you going to learn? You got to think with your head.
Which one?
This one.
Oh, okay. That was the one on the neck for those of you who are listening and can't see.
Yeah.
Geez, I'm having flashbacks to Nick takes over your school with that
Schneider.
that plumbus thing. Jeez. Like, I'm sorry, but what is that and why is it in a kid software game?
Somebody, I don't know who it was, but somebody had commented on our YouTube. And I guess they heard it first and then went to see the video and said that was hilarious.
I'm glad they did, because it's a sight. Essentially this like tube that squeezes out slime, and it's very yeah. Get out of here. This is a family show.
Great.
So thank you, Allie, so much.
It's just toothpaste. That's all it is. It's just toothpaste.
Green clear toothpaste. Okay. Cavity protection.
Nickelodeon had toothpaste at one point, didn't they?
They had to have, right?
I'm pretty sure they did. I know they had the shampoo. Anyway.
I mean, this is kind of an easy one, but whatever. What is the full name of the crossing guard who appears in this episode?
I was just known as Frank the Crossing Guard.
They say his full name.
One of those things where like you thought of it and then you instantly can't say it.
Yeah. Well, it's Frank Gulcher. And
Okay.
it's definitely one of those trademark like Wellsville last names that has that
absolutely
like, kind of sound to it.
Yeah.
And he's also played by James Lally. I don't know what other stuff he's done, but that's his real life name. Which 2 celebrities appear in this episode, and what are their roles? Hint: they have the same role.
Well, one of them had multiple roles.
Yes.
Well, so are you referring to Debbie Harry and Vincent Pastore?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so neighbors, I guess, are their
Yep,
roles.
they're both neighbors.
And bowling alley manager.
Yes.
We're not bowling,
yes.
but
Talent
I guess
scout.
we should say talent scout, but bowling talent scout. That
Good
just
enough, you got
happens
it.
to be in Wellsville.
Are you guys
Yes.
aware of the theory that there's an extra named Hunter Thompson in this episode?
Yes, I heard that. It was the guy who is like, Happy
Yeah.
New Year, young man. But I
Yeah.
don't know what Hunter Thompson looks like in real life. So I didn't know if that was actually him or not.
Yeah,
the famous one.
Yeah, someone was like, there was a theory that it was Hunter S. Thompson, but it's not actually Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah,
so
there's no S. So can't be the real thing. What did the Retro Riley jetpack end up being, and how much did it cost?
It was the leaf blower, and it was
456
78 cents.
95.
Close.
$20,000. 15 bucks.
$456.98.
98.
What do the brothers Pete sell door to door?
Well, that's a landmine inspecting service.
Yes. What is written on the back of Artie's bowling uniform?
Spanson Crackle.
That is
Hanson
correct.
Spackle.
Oh, yeah.
Cranston Crackle or Cranston Spackle? Which is it? Yeah.
I was glitching. You couldn't hear what I was saying. That's what it was.
True. It was Spanson Crackle. That was Don Wrigley's team name. How much does Little Pete charge to let a person cross his crosswalk?
$20.
That is correct. Even is written on his sign, and he pushes it in that guy's face who tries to pull a fast one on him. What character does Danny Tamborelli's real life father play in this episode?
Oh, that's right. He is in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Is he on the bowling team, the opposing bowling team?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll give that to you.
I don't know.
He was
would have been
blue shirt.
You can name his name for extra credit.
Okay.
It is on his shirt.
Oh, is it? That's great. No, I don't know it.
Cliff.
That would fit him pretty well, but no. It is the lead opposing bowling ball player, blue team, and his name is Slim.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Something Taco Palace is the name of their sponsor.
Yeah, Taco. That's all I heard too.
Someone's name's Taco Palace.
It's great. Yeah, I find that in little rare instances, Danny Tamborelli's father likes to make a cameo. Like, I think he was also like trapped under the garage door opener in King of the Road, and he also gave out candy in Halloweeny. So, he's like the Where's Waldo of Pete and Pete. Well, that does it for our double dose of Think Fast and Make the Grade. I don't remember who won. It doesn't really matter. We're just playing for fun. And that also rhymes. So thank you, Allie and Alex, for playing. Woo! And also thank you, Allie.
You played too.
Yeah.
You played on Allie's questions.
That is true. Go me. Yay. But thank you. That'll do it for today's review of New Year's Pete. Allie, thank you so much for joining us. It was really a treat to talk Pete and Pete with you, and also do like our first formal episode review. So if you guys like this format, we'll do some more episodes in the future. Give us feedback at splatattack2021@gmail.com. You can also follow and message us on Instagram at Splat Attack Podcast, and also Splat Attack Podcast on our YouTube channel, where you can catch video versions of each of our podcast episodes. I also have some limited Pete and Pete stickers that I made a few months ago. If anyone would like those for sale, any quantity design, there's like 12 designs of them, including Crossing Guard Frank from this episode and a Little Pete one. Definitely hit me up through Splat Attack Podcast on Instagram, and we can hook you up with some sweet Pete and Pete swag. Allie, where can our Slimesters and Gackoids find you once again?
Well, Slimesters and Gackoids, you can find me on Instagram if you're a Pete and Pete fan at Krebstar _Industries. If you're a 90s fan, head over to Notable Nostalgia. It's a 90s review podcast I do. And then if you happen to be a 90s fan and or a Dungeons and Dragons fan, I have a 90s D&D podcast called Dungeons and Decades, and it's a lot of fun. And you can find all of those things at bigdoorprize.com. They'll have links to all the social pages, where to find us on listening platforms and the jazz. And thanks again for having me, fellas. It was a blast.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Definitely. We'll try and have you back for something else Pete and Pete related, or if you want to talk anything else 90s Nickelodeon or in the realm of 90s nostalgia, just let us know. We'll build an episode around it.
Yeah, and Brett, you've been on Notable a few times. Maybe Alex and Brett could come join us next time. Or...
Yes,
that would be fun. I'm sure cool. Andy and Jeff are missing us too. For anyone who's curious about what episodes I've guest starred on Notable Nostalgia, be sure to check out their Are You Afraid of the Dark one. I believe it's episode 6, where we talk top 5 Are You Afraid of the Dark. I also did Favorite Simpsons episode, which is around episode 30, 32, somewhere around there. It was a 2-parter, lots of fun. And we also did a Ren and Stimpy retrospective back in August for the Nicktoons 30th anniversary. So you don't want to miss that either. That was episode 40 and also a bonus. So check those out on Noble Nostalgia.
And I have done a character study on Harvey the Rabbit and on Kaiser Soze. So if you want those, you'll have to do some deep diving.
I'm sure there's one fan out there that wants it. Cool. Yep. Without further ado, let's get the hell out of the year 2021 and drain the slime tank already.
Aye, co-captain.
Happy New Year, blowholes. We're off to change the world. Splat you later.
This is our mom, and this is her skull. When she was 12, she had an accident, and doctors had to put an old plate in her head.
There I was, 22 years old, fresh out of the army, broke, out of my mind, looking for treasure. And then all of a sudden, the detector starts beeping like a banshee. And I'm thinking Spanish doubloons, right? And then suddenly I'm shocked to see your mother's beautiful face blinking beneath me. And I'm thinking, what the Sam Hill? Oh, when your mother says, go ahead, honey, say it.
It's me. I have a metal plate in my head.
Can you believe that? A metal plate from some accident she had when she was a kid. We get to talking. Next thing you know, honey, next thing you know?
Wedding bells are ringing.
I love my husband.
Mom's head sometimes picks up the police band.
There's a fire on Elm Street. Maybe we can help.
We get to go on rescues.
We're here to help people, not frighten them. I volunteer every day, and I've done everything I possibly can to help.
You okay, Pumpkin?
Yeah. Never been better.
You're my little boy. And I make rules for you because I love you. I guess I'm just afraid you're growing up too fast.
It's not like I can help it.
Yeah, me neither. Tag, you're it.
So that's how the battle over bedtime finally ended. After 11 days and nights, both Pete and Mom understood that change is inevitable, whether you're talking about rules, records, or 10-year-old boys.
Exceptional, but she doesn't care, and I couldn't.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back. You're on, Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on. I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye. Beiß mal Schorf, Blasenlach.
Beiß mein Schloff, Blasenlach.